Gigi Berardi reading FoodWISE. And the section I'm beginning is on genetically engineered GE plants and animals. So genetically modified organism is a controversial topic. I think it is still a controversial topic in this coronavirus era that we're in. When we talk about compromises to the food system right now, we're usually looking at sluggishness and breakages in the supply chain itself, irrespective of whether the crop is genetically modified or not. Most likely, however, if it is a commodity in the United States, it is. Farms and other food industries would make more profit if the living organisms, the plants and animals at the foundation of the business, would just do their jobs better. They should grow faster, be more resistant to pests and diseases and drought, and do clever things like be resistant to herbicides used to kill their competing weeds. Enter genetic engineering, GE, which we have defined as plants or animals whose DNA has been altered, reworked, or reorganized in a laboratory setting. I've already mentioned one application of this technology, the production of food plants resistant to the herbicide glyphosate, as a potential problem for our food supply. Are warmer temperatures extending insects' breeding periods, causing a spike in pests? For companies such as Monsanto Bayer and DuPont, this problem translates into, we need a new kind of plant that's more pest resistant. An early GE corn, for example, was manufactured with material from the bacterium Bacillus thuringiensis, which secretes a natural pesticide, thus producing a plant that can kill its own insect pest. Perhaps the most well-known GE example is the one I've mentioned in the introduction, Roundup Ready corn and soybeans. Monsanto patented the molecule glyphosate for use as an herbicide in 1970, and first marketed it in 1974 in its herbicide Roundup, also patented. The German drug and crop chemical maker Bayer completed purchase of Monsanto in June 2018 and is dropping the Monsanto name from its products. I'll continue to refer to Monsanto because that was part of the history of certain chemicals discussed in this book. Roundup Ready is the trademark for Monsanto Bayer's patented genetically engineered crop seeds that are resistant to glyphosate. Since the patent on glyphosate expired almost 2 decades ago, numerous other chemical companies have produced and marketed glyphosate. Roundup kills pretty much any plant it touches except Monsanto Bayer's own proprietary GE crops. This means that farmers can spray weeds with no negative effect on their crops. However, it also can mean that every other plant in the vicinity dies, including on neighboring farms if the herbicide drifts on the breeze. Other problems have been raised in scientific and popular literature, including contamination of organic crops by pollination from GE crops, and the question of what we are ingesting when we eat that sprayed corn. Further, as was totally predictable, weeds with repeated exposure are adapting and evolving resistance to glyphosate. New and more powerful herbicides will be needed, with implications for natural systems and human health. Glyphosate itself has been scrutinized for years, and there's increasing evidence that exposure to it is much worse for our health than we were told, including raising the risk of some cancers. But apart from these serious problems, for me, one of the biggest arguments against large-scale use of GE seeds, such as corn, canola, cotton, soy, and sugar beets, is its effect on the structure of agriculture. Who produces what? GE crops help big farmers get bigger and contribute to squeezing out smaller and even mid-sized farms that are already economically vulnerable. Apart from higher yields, these GE technologies give mega farms more predictability about their harvest and, in this sense, may lessen the financial uncertainties they face. As part of this pressure, proprietorship issues plague some farmers, including those who didn't buy the patented GE seeds but are accused of and sometimes sued for using the patented seed because wind-blown GE pollen alighted on their fields. There's also the question of who owns the genetic material from which all these new discoveries come. Can the genes and their patented traits in these seeds be considered a form of scientific intellectual property? But at the crux of all this is the big gets ever bigger agricultural juggernaut. Given the many controversies over GEs, it's understandable that consumers want to know whether there are GEs in the food they buy. From our FoodWISE perspective, a relevant part of the acronym is the I for informed. Without required labeling for GEs, the only way to know if a food is GE-free is to buy certified organic, and even then, in some cases, organic farmers may use GE seeds if no others are available. Without labeling for GEs, the ability of consumers to vote with their dollars to influence the sustainability of agriculture from both an environmental and a social perspective is greatly reduced. So talking about the crux here really is about labeling products which have GE seed. Right now what we have is labeling that says there is no GMO or genetically engineered product in the processed food. That's for organic foods. And I've already talked about issues, problems, challenges, as well as opportunities with that organic label, and we will come back to it again.